Hi everyone. Well, it's Thanksgiving, and I know I speak for all of us a tired old queen at the movies when I say that what we are most grateful for is you. Thanks for sticking with us for 10 long years. We hope you're still having as much fun as we are. Now let's go see the one and only, the incomparable, the lovely and talented Steve Hayes, tired old queen at the movies.
Johnny! Is it real or is it Memoex?
Johnny, we hadn't done an Alfred Hitchcock movie in a while, so I chose probably my second favorite Hitchcock film of all time, 1959's North by Northwest, starring Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint, James Mason, Martin Landau, with a script by Ernst Lehman. North by Northwest has probably my favorite credit sequence of any movie of all times by Saul Bass and that amazing score by Bernard Herrmann. Lines come across, lines come up, and all of a sudden, with that music, crashing music, it turns into like the Gulf Western Building and the camera slides down into Manhattan. It's one of the most exciting openings. This is the quintessential cross-country chase movie and really was the basis for all the James Bond movies that came right after that. Cary Grant plays this guy named Roger Thornhill. He's had several marriages, a successful businessman in Manhattan, and he goes to have drinks with some clients at the Plaza Hotel. And he sits down to have these drinks. His name is Roger Thornhill. And he says to the guys, "Oh my God, I forgot to call my mother."
George Kaplan. One of those brand new apartments, all wet paint and no telephone yet. George Perhaps if I sent you a telegram.
And at the same time, there's a page going through the room saying,
Mr. George Kaplan.
"Boy." And the page comes right over to him. Well, these two guys across the room see him and go,
Kaplan. I've got to get off a wire immediately. Could you send it for me if I write it out for you here?
Oh, I'm not permitted to do that, sir, but if you'll follow me.
Oh.
So he goes out and these two guys come up behind him and they go, "Just keep walking, sir."
What are you talking about?
Let's go.
Let's go where? Who?
He says, "You made a mistake." He says, "Yes, obviously, just get into the car." And he's kidnapped because by these two guys who thinks he's George Kaplan. They drive him out to a country estate on Long Island. And James Mason and Martin Landau comes in.
Ah, Leonard, have you met our distinguished guest? He's a well-tailored one, isn't he?
And they think he's George Kaplan. And he says, "You've obviously got the wrong guy." And
My name is Thornhill. Roger Thornhill. There's never been anything else.
Of course.
And Martin Landau is Mason's right-hand guy. And he's also gay. His name is Leonard.
They provide you with such good ones.
They keep saying, "Would you just tell us your plans?"
Do you intend to cooperate with us? I'd like a simple yes or no.
A simple no. For the simple reason I simply don't know what you're talking about.
Give Mr. Kaplan a drink.
He says, "I don't want a drink. I just want to go back to the city." He says, "Bourbon." And he pours this gigantic glass of bourbon and they force it down Cary Grant. Cary Grant now is just completely drunk out of his mind, and they put him in his sports car and they head him down these cliffy roads. And this chase starts up. This camera is in the first person, so you feel like you're driving the car and you're drunk and your vision starts to swerve and then you'll concentrate on the road. It's a wonderful, dizzying effect, and it's all accompanied by one of the greatest scores by perhaps what I think is the greatest composer in classic film, Bernard Herrmann. It's a crashing fandango of a score as this car careens around the cliff, dun 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 dun, and they're chasing him and he almost hits like 4 cars and finally he runs into a police car and he gets arrested and the henchmen just back off and drive away. And he keeps trying to convince his lawyer that this is what's happened, and his mother comes, who's played by Jessie Royce Landis, who in actuality was only 3 years older than Cary Grant when they made this movie, and she had played Grace Kelly's mother in To Catch a Thief. Hitchcock loved her.
Mother.
They find out there's a Kaplan registered at the Plaza Hotel. There is. They go up to his room. They pull out his clothes. He says to Jessie Royce Landis, "Mother, I can't be George Kaplan. George Kaplan has dandruff." And she says, "Well, in that case, I think we should go." And all of a sudden, the phone rings.
Should I?
Certainly not.
You hold that there. Hello.
"Nice to find you in, Mr. Kaplan. We'll be right up." So they start this chase, and he and Jessie Royce Landis get in this crowded elevator, and as the doors open up, the other guys come out, and they get in the elevator with them. And they're all standing there in this crowded elevator, and Jessie Royce Landis looks over at these two henchmen and says,
You gentlemen aren't really trying to kill my son, are you?
and everybody starts laughing. Ah! They're all laughing. And Cary Grant's just thinking, how am I going to get out of here? So the elevator doors opens. He lets the women out first, and he goes with them, and he jumps into a cab. And they have found out that the house that he was kidnapped to was owned by a guy from the United Nations. So he thinks that guy is James Mason. So he goes to the United Nations and has the guy paged. The guy comes up, and it's not James Mason. It's somebody else. And he says, do you live at this address? And the guy says, yeah. He says, were you home last night? And he says, no, I always stay in the city when we're in session. He says, well, then who are those people who are using your house? He goes, what are you talking about? At that moment, you hear it.
Look, do you know this man?
And there's a knife in his back. And as he falls, Cary Grant grabs the knife, and all these cameras go off, and he's holding this knife, and he's just over this body. And then he just starts running. And everything switches, and you go to this meeting place of these, government officials headed by Leo G. Carroll, who was in more Hitchcock movies than any other character actor. And they say, what are we going to do? And they go, well, how? He says, how could he be George Kaplan when George Kaplan doesn't exist? And Leo G. Carroll says,
George Kaplan created to divert suspicion from our actual agent, has fortuitously become a live decoy.
Yes, Professor. How long do you think he'll stay alive?
Well, that's his problem.
So then they cut, and Cary Grant gets on this train. He's been told he should go to Chicago. So he's getting on this train to Chicago, and he meets this incredible blonde, Eva Marie Saint.
He went that way. I think he got off.
All aboard!
Thank you.
It's quite all right.
7 parking tickets.
Oh.
She had won the Academy Award in 1954 for On the Waterfront, and she had played mostly kind of mousy, nice girl. She was really sweet, but Hitchcock turned her into a Hitchcock blonde. She is gorgeous and sexy and so provocative.
The moment I meet an attractive woman, I have to start pretending I've no desire to make love to her.
What makes you think you have to conceal it?
She might find the idea objectionable.
Then again, she might not.
It's so funny. This movie has the best one-liners in it.
Tell me, why are you so good to me?
Shall I climb up and tell you why?
She takes him back. They have this erotic scene. Very reminiscent of the one with Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman in Notorious, where they kiss their way across the room. This one, they're in a train car and they roll, just making out across the rails. And she slips a note to another compartment, and they take it in, and there sits James Mason and Martin Landau. And she says, what do you want me to do with him in the morning? So she's obviously sleeping with him that night. They arrive in San Francisco. She gets her instructions from James Mason.
Did you get Kaplan?
Yes.
Fine. What did he say?
Oh, he'll see you, but not at the hotel under any circumstances. He'll see you on the outside.
Well, when?
Oh, I've got it all written down for you.
He says, yes, now you've got to go.
We'll see each other again, won't we?
Sometime, I'm sure.
Well, he goes to the address, and he's out in the middle of nowhere. He's out in the middle of cornfields. It's like Nebraska. It's just flat. So he stands there, and cars keep going by like every 3 minutes, and he's just by himself. Then a car comes on, and this guy gets out, and he crosses the street, and they look each other up and down, and he says, your name Kaplan? The guy goes, can't say it is, because it isn't. Huh.
That's funny.
What?
That plane's dusting crops where there ain't no crops.
Bus comes, the guy gets in the bus, drives away. Cary Grant's watching that plane, crop dusting plane turns, and it starts down on him. And thus begins one of the most suspenseful and classic Hitchcock scenes ever. This plane just dive bombs him, trying to kill him. And he's running through this cornfield. The plane will go over, he'll turn around. And Grant is running and running and running. The plane goes over him. They're running and running and running. This, and combined with that music, oh my God, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. And he continues on. He figures out that she's been lying to him. He doesn't know why. He's in love with her, but he can't figure out if she's good or bad. They leave Chicago through various forms of things, and they end up on Mount Rushmore, Rapid City, South Dakota. This movie cleaned up at the box office. It was an amazing success for Hitchcock. They didn't know how he was going to top it, and the next year he made Psycho. For you, Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint, James Mason, Martin Landau, in Alfred Hitchcock's classic. There you are, North by Northwest. Na, 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 na. Let's all go to the lobby. Another thing, I wanted to have Cary Grant get sneezed out of Lincoln's nostril, but that was impossible. Can't be beat.